saying about the cool, windy dry conditions of autumn. And we're not quite there yet, but it's coming. And I wanted to give us a class in the season that's coming up rather than the one that just passed. So more useful to you right away. So I don't know. I know some of the people signed up today have done some Ayurveda study, and if you have not, I sent you a brief, kind of a brief description of what this is. Ayurveda is the ancient Indian medical science primarily, and under its umbrella also falls yoga and some other kinds of things. But basically, it works on the principle that the universe is essentially composed of 5 elements, and that each of us has a predominance of certain elements. We all have all 5, but certain ones are going to be more predominant in us. And that's largely based on your heredity. And someday we'll have a whole class on just that. but for our purposes for cooking, those principles also apply to the seasons of the year. So spring, summer, fall, and winter. And they apply to the time of life. And the times of life would be infancy and early childhood, going to adolescence to maybe mid-early adulthood, and then from later mid-adulthood to your silver hair years. Maybe that's inaccurate for some of them. So right now, heading into the autumn, we are in the season that is described as Vata, V-A-T-A. And in that season, which if you think about it, on a normal, say mid to late October day, and even all the way up to a cold January day, here in our latitude, the weather is cool to cold. And often we think of autumn as windy when we think of falling leaves, and think about what the texture of those leaves is like. It's like all of the moist heat of summer is gone. Not today, but it will be. And so the leaves change color and they dry up, and they literally dry and then fall off the trees. And that's a really useful way to understand Vata. So you have these elemental qualities of cold or cool, and wind and dryness, and a sense of roughness. Think of the texture of those leaves, right? I think it's a little bit more rough of a texture. So under Ayurvedic principles, what we want to do to nourish ourselves and to stay healthy is to balance that or pacify those qualities. And we consider in Ayurveda that like increases like, which would mean if you don't want to be more cold, dry, rough, mobile, and windy, you don't want to eat foods that are like that either. You want to eat foods that are smooth and warm and moist and oily. So you get the idea. And the other aspect that we consider is the taste of food. So simply put, it's the taste. It literally is the taste of the food. So from the elemental perspective, of the 6 tastes in Ayurveda, which are listed on your paper, but they are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And again, we could have a whole class just on that. But the tastes that pacify or balance or soothe Vata are the sweet, sour, and salty tastes. So our food choices are going to predominate in those tastes. We're still going to eat all 6 tastes because balance and good health depends on eating all 6. But we're going to emphasize the sweet, sour, and salty taste. Okay. So I'm going to kind of get things going here. So I sent you, I hope you did get it. I sent a separate recipe for something called magic mineral broth. And the reason I sent that was because we are going into soup season, you know. And magic mineral broth came from Rebecca Katz, who's a well-known author, nutritionist, foodie person, chef, who's worked a lot with sort of mindful-based medicine and healing work and foods. And she put together this way to make a vegetable stock that is fabulous. And it uses, what's so appropriate about it right now is it uses all of those veggies that fall under those tastes, predominantly sweet. So it uses a lot of root vegetables. You know, think about when you cook a root vegetable, like a perfect example would be a sweet potato. When you roast it, it gets sweeter, right? Even if you roast an onion, which is pungent, it gets sweeter. So onion is a pungent taste, but the way we're going to cook it, it's going to become sweet. The other things that are naturally sweet are things like the fall squashes. So we're making a soup today that uses a butternut squash, but you can use nothing too dry. Like I probably wouldn't use a kabocha squash for this, but you could use the butternut, the red curry, a honey nut, some of those varieties. Okay. Any questions? As we go, I can talk about other foods that fall into these categories. Some of them are represented and some are not today. So the other things you want to know about diet in Vata season is that we want foods that are predominantly cooked and eaten warm. So it's not that we don't eat salad. We certainly could still eat salad. We probably eat that kind of thing at a time of day when our digestion is strongest, which according to Ayurveda would be midday, like lunchtime. We're not eliminating that from our diet. You can still eat apples and that kind of thing, more as like a snack. And we're going to cook fruit crisp that would be a cooked apple or pear. Today we're using plums and peaches because we're right in a transitional season. So I wanted to use what is appropriate for the time for today. But I am going to give you our first recipe. We're actually going to do it first because it takes a while. This needs to sit in the refrigerator for an hour. It is an energy bar, and it's raw. But it's not like a raw piece of broccoli. So it's still going to be quite digestible, I promise you. And it's just something that is meant to be used as a snack or as sort of an energy boost. And what it's made from, things like cashews and coconut oil and almond or something, I'd have to read it. Almond butter, yeah. Shredded coconut, some warming spices, which is a whole other aspect too, is which spices we're using today. It all just goes zipped up together in a Cuisinart, dates. So it is quite sweet. It also has sugar in it, but the sugar I'm using today for everything is coconut sugar. And the reason I'm using coconut sugar is because it has a low glycemic index. So if you are being cautious about high GI, high glycemic index foods, coconut sugar is a substitute that's much lower, as our dates actually are also low glycemic. And the reason that's true is because they're very high fiber. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and start with this raw bar. And I've got it all set up over in the Cuisinart here, which I know it's kind of far away from you. That's okay. For our purposes, that'll be fine. So I have in here already the cashews and the dates and the sugar. Oh, and I have to put in a little bit of maple syrup. By the way, I reduced this recipe by half the sugar that was in it originally, and it's still very sweet. But it's an energy bar, right? So that makes sense. Sugar is where we get energy from. That quick energy, that boost. Okay, so it's gonna be really loud. Sorry, hang on. It's just gonna be loud. So what I'm doing is I'm grinding up just the nuts, the cashews, that maple syrup, and the brown sugar, the coconut sugar. So it's getting sort of like a course meal. And then here, I'll show it to you. So see, it's all kind of ground up into that. And then I mix together everything in the second part, almond butter, from the almond butter down in the recipe. It's already in this little bowl. And you put it all together. I love this thing. This takes like, once you get the time you use just measuring everything out. Very easy, very simple to make. Put it back on. And it's gonna all glue together. Just about, so it all just becomes homogeneous. And then I have this little pan that is lined, I'm using plastic wrap, but the food's not hot, so I'm not concerned about that. And it's gonna, you'll see it coming out. See, it's just all sticky. So when it's like this, I considered making it into little balls, which I suspect you could do. But the way the recipe was written was to put it flat in the pan to let it chill, which, you know, so I stuck with the original intention. And then you're just gonna sort of make it evenly pressed into the pan. And my little pan here is about 1/2 inch thick. So if you had a bigger pan, you would decide how thick you want it. But of course, the thicker it is, the longer it's going to have to chill. So you just press it flat. Now you can see it doesn't take up the whole pan, but you can also see it's sticky, so it doesn't matter. So what I can do now is I'll just fold up an edge. So I made it so it's kind of square. You can do it however you want. I mean, the thickness is optional, but you know, all that. Like I said, it would just take longer to chill if it's thicker. It's maybe not quite, maybe like 3/4 of an inch back here. And then just kind of make it flat. So I'm using just a little flat edge spatula here. And that's all there is to this one. All right. We're going to be kind of jumping around between recipes just because of the process, you know, because some things take longer than others, and you don't just do one thing and then wait and then do the next thing. So just bear with me. Okay, I'm going to put this in the fridge. See, it's just nice and tidy. When it's chilled, then you cut it. Alrighty. Then we're going to look at the beginning of the soup. So I really, again, this is another pretty simple recipe. Well, very simple, I think. And I love that it roasts the vegetables first. before you make them into the soup. We're going to use magic mineral broth as the liquid base. And when I make the broth, I just make a whole bunch of it, you know, a few quarts, like whatever. I think I sized your recipe at maybe 2 quarts. It can be frozen too. It's totally fine to do that with it. So we're going to be putting the squash and the onion in the oven to roast. Do you have your recipe pulled up for the soup? Because I want to talk to you about it a little bit. So I gave you 2 options. This is a Moroccan recipe from Ottolenghi, who uses the really spicy recipes, but they're also just brilliant recipes. They're interesting. They're often just fascinating to make. And he uses a product called rose harissa. Rose harissa is very spicy, and the rose harissa has rose petals in it, but the other spices it has in it are the ones that I've listed here as dry spices. So if you are not using rose harissa, I'm going to use it today just to show you what it looks like. But if you're not using rose harissa, when you put the vegetables into roast, you would mix all those dry spices together and throw them on the squash and the onion to roast on it, okay? Otherwise, you're just using, that means the oven's ready. You're just using the squash, the onions, and the olive oil at this point. Oh, and some salt. So, there we go. Make it pan. Little salt. And this just sits in a 425 oven for, takes about 25 minutes. You want them to get soft. I'm doing the official toss here. You can stir it. You can put your hand in there, or you can just go like this. Toss it. Took out the veggies with the oil. They'll even get, the reason you're doing it at such a high heat is they even get just slightly gold on the edges, or you know, a little brown on the edges. So there we go. No flat. I used a red onion today because I thought it would be pretty. You could use a yellow onion. I've made this before. I've used a yellow onion, which is fine, but I thought it would just be a pretty color. You know, that's important in the way we digest. So you've heard that saying, you begin digestion with your eyes and with your nose. And I think it's really true. Food that is beautiful, your body, you know, you start to salivate, right? You like to say, oh, I can't wait to eat that, you know? And that's actually very good for your digestion, not to mention the things in life that give us that kind of just simple pleasure are good for our health, are good for our mental health, good for our physical health. So in this go. Okay, so that's going to do it's 25 minutes. And we'll be getting the stock part of that going pretty quick. But I have one other thing that has to go in the oven with this. And I want to get it in now so I can get our dessert in. So turn to your salad page. We're going to do the pears. We're making this beautiful salad that uses roast pear. Pear is ripe. This is like really soft and ripe. This is almost impossible to do with ease. So this pear, I could eat this pear now, but it's not, you know, it's ripe enough, but it's not overly soft. So you're going to leave the peel on, but just core it. And then you're going to slice it into about maybe 1/4 inch slices. I gave you a fairly large amount in the recipe. I'm not doing that much because I don't have a crowd to feed. So I scaled back. So if you're not cooking for 4 people or 6 people, you just do 1 pair. I promise you won't mind having it around if you don't use it all though. It's really delicious. Super simple. I gave you the option of using ghee on this pair instead of the coconut oil. Ghee is considered, Ayurveda loves ghee. It's considered a very, very helpful food in that system. It is a very, very helpful food, but I'm going to use the coconut oil today because I'm kind of going more toward the vegan side. And the coconut oil is good to use too. Coconut oil is warm from sitting on the back of the stove here. So it's just a little bit, a tablespoon of coconut oil for the 2 pairs. So less than that for the 1 pair. In my case, like half that much. And then a little dollop of maple syrup. The reason we're doing the maple syrup is because it helps, first of all, this wonderful flavor with the pear, but it also helps in the baking. You get kind of a nice coating on the pear. So just a tiny bit of maple syrup, just a little. And then you stir it around. And you do it on a flat sheet with a parchment paper lining. That was true for the squash and onion too. Sometimes when I roast vegetables, if I want them to get crispy, for example, if I decided I want to have a roast vegetable dish for dinner and I combine some carrots and beets and sweet potatoes and regular potatoes and onions and that kind of thing, I wouldn't use paper on the pan because I want them to kind of stick to the pan and brown on the bottom. But in this case, that is not what we're looking for. So we use a liner. I'm saying that just in case it seems like, well, how come you do it sometimes, but you don't do it other times. So that's why. It depends what you want your final product to be like. Okay. These go in. These just going for a short time. So. Good. All right. So we've almost got the oven thing going. Now we're going to do the crisp. The crisp cooks at a lower temperature, so I need to get those things in and out so I can turn the oven down. That's just the way it is. So I had told you I'm using, because of the season, we're right where we are right now. You could do this with stone fruits, or you could do it with tree fruits. So stone fruits are, peaches, plums, etc. Tree fruits are like apples, pears. Nectarines, apricots. You can also make this with berries, but of course that's more of a summertime thing. So I'm going to cut the plums into about 8s here. Wait till you see when this comes out. It is so pretty. Oh, and it smells heavenly. I'm sorry you're not here, or that we're not together somewhere where you can smell everything. Okay, so there's that. And then the peach I would peel. I don't always peel my peach, but these peaches are not organic. I got them at the farmer's market, but they're not organic, so I'm going to peel them. The plums are organic, or that's my personal preference. I would suggest that you do what feels right to you. So again, just into chunks, like 1/8 size. You don't want them too small for the soft fruits. If you were doing apples and pears, you might cut them a little thinner. But you know, a soft fruit, it cooks faster. So. Let's get this last one peeled. Go. I don't add a lot of sweetener to the fruit, especially if it's, you know, particularly if I know it's already really sweet, like these peaches are just over the moon sweet already. I do add a little juice, like lemon juice or lime juice. So I happen to have a lime right here. I'm going to use that. That just brings up the sweetness. So lime and lemon are sour, right? In the categories of taste. Okay, and I'm going to put just a tiny little dash of maple syrup. I would go like the low amount in this case, 2 tablespoons at the most for a full pan. My pan is a little smaller than a 9x9. And then I do oil the inner side of the pan a little bit. So here with this nice melted coconut oil, I could just drizzle a little in there, get it up the sides a bit, just to make sure that everything in the end comes out nice. Toss the fruit, and it goes. Okay, so I have a layer of fruit, and I'm going to let the fruit kind of flatten. And then I have the topping just about ready to go. So this is the topping all mixed together already. So the oats, the nuts, the almond flour, coconut sugar, the spices. Yeah, so it looks, you know, pretty much like a crisp topping, but it hasn't been, hasn't had the fat added to it yet. You could also use melted butter or soft butter. So in this case, we're still using the coconut oil. So I took my measured ingredients and just mixed them around a bit. And then I'm gonna drizzle over this oil. And I wanted to show you this part because without the regular kind of a flour, you know, it handles a little bit differently. More and more, some of the people I cook for prefer to stay gluten-free. So, so I'm always looking for good alternatives. That's one of those things that, you know, for some folks it's a requirement for the good health, and for some folks it's a preference. Okay, so I'm starting it with the spoon, but I want you to see as it starts to soak up the oil. What you want it to do is start to clump. So I'm going to help it a little bit. And my spoon I'm using is a little bit small. So this could use a little bit more oil. I didn't actually use a real tablespoon. There, that's better. Yeah. So I'm starting to get, see, it's kind of holding together a little bit better. My mother made apple crisp. I guess it's probably my grandmother started it, but my mother made apple crisp when we were children. You know, it used to be something every fall she would make, and oh my goodness, I just grew up loving apple crisp. I'm actually going to put a little bit of cool water here in this too, because it still feels like it could go together just a little better. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so I'm just going to sprinkle this now on top of my fruit. This is going to get a nice crisp texture to it. Remember, it's made with the coconut sugar, so it's low glycemic, which means doesn't mean that it's okay to eat it if you're not supposed to eat sugar. If that's the case, just bake the fruit without the topping on it. But it does mean that it doesn't shoot your blood sugar up high like regular sugar does. Hands. We'll wipe this off, and we'll have about 10 minutes before we can put it in the oven. So it's ready to go. We'll just keep cruising along. All right. So let's work on the red lentil dal. So again, I chose these red lentils for a reason. That's on the pears. I'm going to take them out. Are these looking good? Here's the pears. You see, they're just kind of shiny. They're not really brown or anything, which is fine. We don't need them to be brown. I had them on the second shelf of the oven. If they're up on the top shelf, they might get a little bit golden, but they're the right texture. Nice that they're soft, but they're not falling apart. We're gonna cool over here. So I started to say, I chose this red lentil just for a reason. So foods that are soothing for Vata, balancing for Vata, pacifying for Vata. Beans often are not at the top of that list. And you know, I described, I'm gonna maybe laugh when you hear me say this, but it's true. I describe Vata as windy. So here's how Vata can be windy, other than when you're not talking about the weather. You know how when our body doesn't digest right, we produce gas in our lower digestive system, and it can be very, very uncomfortable, very unpleasant. And that's, you know how people call it, you know, say passing wind? Well, there you go. That's a Vata symptom of something, you know, that you've eaten that has not, your digestive system is not happy about. Generally, or you know, or maybe you ate too fast. Sometimes even we get that way if we are talking a lot while we're eating, and so we're almost like, it's like we're eating air at the same time. You know, have you ever had that happen where you're in a conversation, you're having a meal with people, and you're talking, and you know, as you're eating, and this is one of those things that can happen. So if you don't have any problem digesting all legumes, by all means, eat any that you like. It's fine. They're wonderful. High in protein, really good for you in many ways. But if you do have a problem, two of the easiest legumes to digest are the red or golden lentils, and the other one is mung beans, or what they call moong dal, moong, M-O-O-N-G, moong dal. Red lentils are very, very widely accessible. So you can find them easily. So that's one of the reasons we're doing red lentils, is because I wanted to give you a legume, but one that's especially easy to digest. You could also make this soup, this dal, with any kind of a lentil. You know, if you prefer like the brown or green or the pui lentils, you can use that too. Okay. So we're gonna chop some onion. Again, the fat could be ghee. And if you've taken any of these Ayurveda cooking classes with me before, we've always made ghee. I just thought I'd switch it up this time. So I'm going to be using the coconut oil. You could use any kind of oil. It's not my intention to say that you could use olive oil, you could use sunflower oil. It's just that either ghee or coconut oil are more traditional for this dish. So we have onion. You know the secret about chopping onions? No, it won't stop you from crying. It's not that secret. So when you peel your onion, if you keep at least some of the peel attached at the root end, it is true, I have been told from reliable sources, that the aromatics in the onion are concentrated at the root end. The other part here, this would be the stem end, right? And this is the root end. So if you cut your onion in half, not through its equator, but from pole to pole, top to bottom, and then peel the skin back so you have this little handle, not only are you avoiding the worst of the aromatics, that the sulfurous compounds that make your eyes water, but you have a little handle to hold on to. So we're going to cut this onion fine. This way of cutting onion fine is one that somebody showed me, and it made so much sense. You go horizontally to the half onion down first, and then you go vertically, and then you just go across, and you get all these fine little pieces, just like that, without, it's efficient. And then when you get further down, you can just go back to the other way of doing it. Just cutting the rest of it. So I'm going to turn my coconut oil on there. And you start with this is a pretty simple recipe. I'm kind of trying to simplify life overall these days, as much as is possible. And you add into, once this gets stirred around for a few minutes while we're letting the oil get hot, you're going to add into it the spices. And then you're going to also have some grated ginger and garlic. And I do that on a microplane. This is like one of my favorite ever tools in the kitchen. It's so efficient. And when you're doing things like ginger, and when you want your garlic to be more of a paste-like thing than a slice-like thing, it's fabulous. This is easy. So the coconut oil is heating. This recipe called for a spice mix called garam masala. The words garam masala, garam, G-A-R-A-M, means warming. And masala is a word you'll always see with Indian food. It means taste, flavor, the flavor of the food. So garam masala is a combination of spices that are warming. If you don't have garam masala, I gave you a list of the spices that are in most versions of garam masala. It can differ from region to region. People have preferences from chef to chef, but this is the basic one. And this list of spices, I was saying we would talk about spices, and we already looked at some of them: the cinnamon and cardamom that is in the rabar, and in the crisp topping, and some of the different spices that'll be in the soup. But these are spices that are by Ayurveda are considered warming, except for the black pepper in that list. All the rest of it, well, black pepper is warming, but in a different way. It's considered a pungent spice, but it's also helpful for digestion. So it's always a good addition, even in at least a minimal amount. It's like my oil is hot. It's good. And then we'll go ahead and do the garlic and ginger. So just in this case, I want it to be either chopped really finely or grated. Two tools I have in the kitchen in particular that are hand tools that I just love. This is one, aside from my knife. This is one of them. And the other is my stick blender, which is electric, but it's still a hand tool, unlike a Cuisinart. Okay. Just in that they simplify things and make it easier. You can do this, of course, with your knife too. Just smash it and chop it really fine. That's our squash. It's hot in there. Okay, so there's pretty hot. There's our soup ingredient. Coming over to cool. It's a little bit brown and golden on the edges. It's really nice. Just right, just right. And then I'm going to grate the ginger the same way. You see this little piece of ginger? I didn't even feel it. First of all, it is organic. But secondly, when I do this on the microplane, I don't have to feel it, because the skin part, the brown outer part, stays mostly up above, where I can just discard it. And then the grated part is falling out the bottom. This is awesome. Let's put do the oven just a few minutes. Cool. Can you hear my onion? In an ideal world, I think I'd have cameras mounted everywhere. Like up here, so you could see the stove. I'm glad you said that, Julia, because it smells sweet. You know what I mean? So it's like if I were cooking garlic and onions in a frying pan, it wouldn't smell sweet, right? It would smell very pungent. And in the season of kapha, which is for us like late winter, early spring here, you see, look at that. All the peel just sticks to the outside. No worries. That's a good thing to eat because we need that. But when we're in Vata season and we're going for sweetness, that wouldn't be the first choice we would make. You know, we would want the food to be overall to have a more sweet, not just flavor, but scent, but aroma. So right now it's a little pungent with these onions doing that thing. Okay, I'm gonna put this in. This is the fruit crisp going in. That's going to take about 45 to 50 minutes. So my onions need just another moment. So garam masala. So if you have the garam masala, you're gonna use that. And if you don't, you would, before you even get started, I would just make a mixture of all these spices. And you could make more than that, of course. This is just for this one recipe, this quantity. But you could make, 4 times that much and put it in a glass jar, which is basically what this is. And then you have it on hand. Does this combination of spices seem unusual to you? Cinnamon along with fennel, along with coriander, along with cumin, along with black pepper, along with cardamom or nutmeg. Again, the one thing they all have in common, except for the black pepper, is they're all considered sweet, warming spices. Cumin is a little more pungent, but not extreme. So while this is just about there, the onions, they're not quite translucent yet. The red lentils, I had already rinsed them, so they're just sitting here ready. You always rinse especially with red and golden lentils, you want to rinse them really well, even more than you would like a firmer lentil, like a green or brown or black lentil. And you notice when they're rinsing that the water is cloudy coming off it. So I just put it in a colander under the running water on the sink, a fine mesh. Here, a fine mesh colander like this. And run water through it until it starts running clear. Because it's like a powdery, it must be from the milling, because these are hulled, these red lentils. They've already had their outer covering in them. So somewhere in that process, it picks up this dust on the outside. And if you don't rinse them really, really well, they can get there's like a scum that rises to the surface of the soup. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with it, but generally most people skim that off. I would sort of think about, does it cause wind? I'm serious. I have heard that said actually somewhere along the way. My onions are in good shape. So now they're just translucent and getting little bits of gold color on them. So I'm putting in my garlic and my ginger, and that's just going to take a very short time, like seconds, really. Maybe 20, 30 seconds. oh boy, if you could smell it now. This is pungent to a fairly well. Ginger is, while ginger does have a sweet taste, it also has a pungent quality. In Ayurveda, the quality of pungency is considered spicy, hot, like cayenne. So ginger, it's not like cayenne, but it is spicy at first. Oh my goodness. Okay, it's already ready. Just if you could only smell it. Sorry. Yeah, and then we're gonna put in the spices. So I got a tablespoon of the garam masala. Do you know that a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons? And then a little bit of turmeric. There's a lot more garam masala than turmeric in this. Turmeric is bitter. Its taste is bitter. So when I'm saying that we're emphasizing sweet, sour, and salty, we're not leaving out the other 3, bitter, pungent, and astringent. We're just doing less of it. Oh my gosh, I have to show you this. Let's see. Can I do it? Here. Look at that. Here. There. Oh, it smells marvelous. So the brown is from the spice. It's not the veggies. It's just the spice is brown. And the aroma of it is like amazing. So you're going to now put the lentils in there. May have to re-rinse my lentils. They're all stuck together. There. And you stir the lentils around so that all of this gorgeous aromatic beginning stuff, the spices, the onions, the garlic, and the ginger, all kind of incorporate together before you put any liquid in there. So here. I'm just going to bring you there, actually. Here you go. Let me get it right. Nope. Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm probably making you dizzy. Anyway, there they are. Okay. Now it gets the water. And then the coconut milk. So I had to turn the heat off while I was moving things around, but back on. And it's going to get the 2.5 cups of water, the tomatoes. This is also a balm for the change of seasons. I don't know that I would do tomatoes maybe in November. I might. But they're more, we think of tomato. Well, it can be kind of a sweet sour taste. But specifically, it occurred to me to do this particular recipe now because we're just at the tail end of summer. So you need to stir some of the little lentils will stick to the bottom of the pot. So you have to stir them up before you get too much liquid in there. You want to, because if they get stuck, they might stay there and get burned. Okay, canned tomatoes. And that's going to get started on its way. The other thing about red lentils is they cook really fast. And then it also gets coconut milk. So see what kind of shape the coconut milk is in. You know how coconut milk, if it's cold, like if it's in an air-conditioned store, the fat is hard on the bottom. So you might need to homogenize it. So this is because it's warm in the kitchen, that didn't happen. You see it's all nice and liquidy. We're gonna put in a little bit of salt. These lentils can take some salt. I'm just starting with about a teaspoon, but you may well want more salt. And some black pepper. Okay. And then the coconut milk is going to go in. I'm going to put the cover on this. So it can get heated. And then as soon as it comes up to a boil, I'm going to open that cover a little bit. So it just simmers. So we are, where are we at here? Oh, we're doing good. So we still have the broccolini, the salad dressing, and to finish the soup. Plenty of time. So any questions? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You can use that magic mineral broth. Any soup-based thing that you want to use it in, absolutely. So yes, yes, you absolutely could. Do remember it does have a flavor. So for example, if I cook the pot of veggies in water for about 4 hours, because you know Rebecca Katz in her original recipe, she says cook it for 2 hours. That's never enough for me. I want to get everything out of those veggies I possibly can. So I usually cook it for about 4 hours. I mean, just at a very low simmer until they're practically disintegrated in the pot. And it has a very distinct flavor, but it's sweet. So it's all those root veggies. And of course, the fact that onion gets sweet when it's heated in addition. So the kombu doesn't offer any flavor at all. It just offers sodium and probably potassium. It's called mineral broth because it's high in sodium, potassium, and magnesium. It's also, if I'm not feeling good, you know, if I'm recovering from something or whatever, boy, oh boy, do I want this stuff. I mean, it's as an option to chicken broth, or an alternative to chicken broth. We're gonna put some in our squash soup, but it really is very nourishing. You know, think of all of that. You're not only taking in all of the vitamins and the minerals from the veggies, but you're also taking in, because you've just cooked it at a very low simmer. You're not like boiling it to death for 4 hours, you know. But it's just like all of that goodness is seeping into the water, and you're also taking in, and this again is another Ayurvedic idea, you're taking in the vitality of all those veggies. All those, you know, months in the sun and the rain and the soil. And so it always feels very healing, just even by itself. Excuse me. So the other thing I do with it sometimes is I dilute it. So I might use half mineral broth and half water. And in the case of the dal, that's probably what I would do, because it is so sweet, it would add its sweetness, which if I were using just magic mineral broth, might be too much. So I would do maybe half mineral broth and half water, because I want the all the spices to come through. Plus, you've got coconut milk in there, and the coconut milk is also a sweet taste. You know, so it could get overwhelming. Very high in fiber. It's very, very high in fiber. Same with dates. So the like sugar is glycemic. Well, white sugar is what they would score at like 100. That's sort of the basis, right? For everything else. It was granulated, refined white sugar. And things like maple syrup and honey are still very high. They have maybe some other nutritional attributes, at least a little of that. And they may be slightly absorbed differently in the body, but not that much. I mean, they're still like in the 90s. But dates are, I think, in the 50s. And I believe glucose or coconut sugar is in the 40s. You can check that, you can Google that, but it's the fact that it's very high fiber. So glycemic index is measuring how quickly your blood sugar rises, of course. And if you're eating a sugar with high fiber, and we're not just eating spoonfuls of coconut sugar, we're eating it with, in this case, with oats and nuts and all kinds of other stuff, then your blood sugar is not going to go zooming so high. Your body is going to process it over a longer period of time so that does not happen because of the fiber.
Okay, thank you.
For your question. Okay. Let's move on. So we have our soup to finish, our salad dressing. Let's make the dressing for the broccolini and then we'll finish the soup. Oh, and we also have, right, the salad dressing. The broccolini dressing does get heated. So let's see. So I'm going to get some strips of lemon peel. This is called a channel knife, this tool, and it creates just a strip. But you can, here, you can do that with a small sharp knife too. And one thing I thought might be a little interesting, in addition to its flavor with this particular dressing for the broccolini, is the preparation is a little bit different in it. So, in this one, we want to keep our garlic and our ginger not as a paste. We want them to be in pieces. So they're really going to have a lot more oomph in their flavor. So the garlic is just sliced. And the ginger is julienne. So here, I mean, literally just thin slices of a clove of garlic or 2 cloves, depending how much you're making. So just as thin as you can make them. And then the ginger, you will peel it for this. So I just have this sharp little knife that I peel the brown skin off. Okay. And then you're going to just make it into thin strips. So it's always easier to julienne anything if you make one edge flat. So you decide one edge is now it's not roly-poly. The same is true if you're julienning a carrot, you know. And then, or also the cut end was flat. And then you're going to go thin slices in one direction. And in this case, I'm going, you know, like as thin as I possibly can. So like less than a 16th of an inch, if possible. And then you just kind of stack it up. We're just starting to get a little similar in the red lines. Then you go very, very thin the other way. So they're like, boy, if these were matchsticks, they'd be the thinnest matchsticks you've ever seen. Okay. See? I'm going to make my garlic slices maybe half the size that they were there. Okay. And then we have the cashews. So I just picked up some already roasted cashews. Last time I did this, I toasted my cashews on the stovetop, which is another way that you could do it. Or you could throw them in the oven, like a 350-degree oven for about, probably about 7 minutes. Nuts are high in the Vata season diet because not only are they high in protein, which is a good thing, grounding for us, but they're also high in fat. So they qualify as oily. So we're going to chop these. Probably have a little bit too much here. And then the other things get just heated. So you're gonna be cooking your aromatics. Go. I have this wonderful collection of aromatics. I have lemon peel, garlic, ginger, and then I have the cashews. I'm going to put them in a little saute pan. Oh my goodness, my lentils are bubbling away. So for this, I use the recipe calls for sunflower oil, but I also used a little bit of sesame oil for the flavor, which is not written down. I mean, you can, that's a choice. This is untoasted sesame oil, not toasted. So it would be an option. So we're going to heat the oil, add these in, and then it's going to get the soy sauce and a little sugar. Again, coconut sugar. It says to put salt in the recipe. Taste it first. So, it depends that the recipe calls for a light soy sauce, and you could create a lighter soy sauce by combining, if it's not something you have in your pantry. I just have regular tamari, so I could combine this with a little water. And the other way I've done this is using cocoa aminos, which are an alternative to soy sauce, which work really well. So let's see. I'm going to reclaim my coconut milk container here. I'm just switching burners around for this so we can move on to the soup in a moment while that oil is getting in. The lentils on the back. Okay, oil's ready. So there they go. Okay. I'm going to let the oil get a little bit hotter there, and we'll get our soy sauce ready. So I've got 2 tablespoons, which I'm going to make part of my water. Okay, so it's light. And coconut sugar. Okay, good. Going. I'm getting hungry cooking this food. Y'all welcome to come over. You can sit in the backyard and have a feast. So that needs a minute or 2. The broccolini, that's going with this. It's just going to be steamed, so very straightforward. And the only thing with that you may want to keep in mind, and I'm not going to turn the heat on under the steam, to steam it until right before we're finishing. So not for a little bit yet. So broccolini, of course, the stalks come in, all different widths and sizes, right? So you do want to make them more equal sized. And of course, you could make it shorter. You could just use the upper part of the floret, although the whole stem is edible. I did cut off the base of most of the stems already that we're using today. So you just can make them, a little more uniform. So in their thickness, so that when you're steaming them, they're all going to steam at the same for the same length of time, because we're just putting them all in together. So. I chose broccolini for 2 reasons, at least 2 reasons. In part because all of these foods are red and orange, or most of them, you know. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's like one of the ways that I always look at the table when I'm imagining what it would look like with a menu is the color. What colors are there? And you've heard the expression, eat the rainbow. Well, that does apply to really to every meal in terms of finding balance. And there is something to be said that if you do that, you're going to naturally, even without using any special scientific information, you're going to come up with a balance of flavors. Because like if you're eating a rainbow, it's unlikely that it's all going to be green or it's all going to be red, you know. So I wanted something that would kind of offset the sweetness of everything else that we're having here. My aromatics look like they're just about, they got just a little tan. Yeah. Just a little more golden. So now I'm going to put in the soy sauce and let that heat for a sec. Oh, good. My red lentils are looking like they should. They were looking really like coconut milk for a while, but now they're getting going. Now that's all bubbling, and I'm going to put in that little bit of sugar, a teaspoon of coconut sugar. And that what that does, not only does it add just a little bit of sweetness to this very pungent aromatic blend, it also is going to help it thicken a little. You know, it's going to sort of caramelize. So it makes it a nice sauce that'll coat the broccolini stuff. So you just let it go until the sugar dissolves. And let's get this out of the way. And you see, I did it all as one thing. I have it written to do it as 2 things, which is fine. You can do it that way. But this works too. You know, I mean, just given the nature of it. And it's simple. Okay, we're going to finish the soup. So, you have 11 minutes or so left on the crisp. The red lentils are doing their thing. They're not quite done. Red lentils cook quickly, unlike some others. I'm gonna check and see if they're actually, they look pretty soft. Just want to test them. Oh, pretty close. Give them just another couple minutes. We could put, if we were using the optional spinach, we're sort of at almost at the end of the cooking time. So I would put that in now. So I chose the broccoli. I didn't quite finish what I was saying. I chose the broccolini for the color, but also because it's a pungent taste. And that gives us a little more balance in a meal. You don't want everything to be sweet. You still want all 6 tastes represented at your meal. Dressing is done. Take that that container. There it is. Mm-hmm. So there it is. Okay. All right, so finishing the soup. So we're using the mineral broth. And I'm going to use half mineral broth and half water. Because this particular batch I made is very strong. I let it go for a long time. You can see the color of it. And then it gets the saffron. So I don't know how you feel about saffron. It's not it's not as common, and of course it's very expensive. But oh my gosh, it is just the most amazing to me. The taste profile of saffron is warming and pungent. Look at that. Oh, gosh. A little bit of saffron does go a long way. You know, you buy saffron in these little teeny tiny jars. It's very pricey. So it's a treasure. If you like the taste of saffron. Not everybody is as wild about it, but I love it. Okay. I'm going to get the rose harissa and show it to you. And the orange. So the orange, you just rinse off a microplane. We're doing just a little bit of orange zest. Teaspoon. Kind of a surprise, you know, the flavors of this. It's very, to me, it's just exciting. So just like you did the other things, you get the orange zest with the microplane, or if you have a zester tool, you know, like a regular zester. That's all gonna, that broth is gonna come up to a simmer. And then this is rose harissa, Middle Eastern spice paste with rose petals. So rose harissa, it's absolutely beautiful. Look at the color of it. Now you probably can't see the color of it very well. Maybe I can do a better job here. Look at that red. You can see it now. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So it's made with a pepper, like a red pepper, and then it's got all these other spices also thrown in there. So I'm going to throw this rose harissa in my broth. And so my soup is going to be on the spicy side. There are, but if you're curious about you want to try rose harissa, they come at different levels of spiciness. Some of them are super, super, super spicy. That, you know, if that's your cultural, what you're accustomed to, you know, if you're used to eating Middle Eastern really spicy food, you might like that. This particular brand, which is made by Belazu, Belazu, it is spicy, but it's not over the top, which is why I got this one, because I don't mind some spiciness, but I don't want to go over the top. Oh my gosh. Can I show you this? Look at this color. Here, I have to show it to you. Look at the color of this. And what you can't see in it is the little saffron from this angle is the saffron threads.
Beautiful.
Maybe once I get it all put together, I can get the camera in a good spot to show it to you. I mean, it really is gorgeous. So pretty. Okay. So we just need to bring that up to heat. We're going to throw our veggies in. And then I have been, this recipe, when I first started to play with it, was done as a pureed soup, completely pureed. But that didn't really appeal to me. Maybe I've been done too many butternut squash purees lately or something. I just didn't really want a pureed soup. And so I tried it where I just pureed maybe a third of it. And I really liked it because it gives the soup some body. Now you could also not puree it at all. And that would be fine too. It's coming up to a simmer, so we can add our dish. But I really liked it partially pureed. So that's how I've written for you. So this is the squash and the onion that we roasted earlier. See, the squash did brown a little on the bottom side. So, and it's just nice and soft. And the red onion, the purple onion is soft all the way through. I'm telling you, this is like the highlight, this one. Well, maybe the crisp will win, but. So we're gonna put this in the broth. Oh, it's a beautiful cream. There's a little onion in there. Okay, this out of the way. Oh my goodness, such a beautiful thing. I think all we have left to do is finish the salad. The red lentil dal looks good. It's really good. It's rich. So maybe, you know, on a day like today, it's not quite, you know, as I said, we're not quite in Vata yet. We're getting there though. I woke up this morning and it was cool and there was a little breeze and I thought, oh, thank goodness. It's actually a more appropriate day for my Vata class. That's good. And this is just going to sit and then we'll puree it. So our last thing to do is finish off the salad. And then we'll puree some of that squash. Yeah. So this is a really, really simple dressing for the salad here. Balsamic vinegar and maple syrup, you can't go wrong. It's, you know, all good. All good. And it's good to make extra of this. This dressing is just so yummy. You'll want to eat it again. So you can always make more than you need for this one salad. So, I think I have a better bowl here. See better. That's a good crisp. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Life is good. Look at that. Look at that. I'm inviting you all for dinner. Okay. I'm excited. That's a beautiful, smells so good. Sweet, cinnamony. Okay, so we have the balsamic. I'm going to do half the amount that your recipe is written for because I'm not making that much salad. I only did one pair, so I'll do half. Half of a tablespoon. Remember, there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, so half of a tablespoon is 1.5 teaspoons. Just in case it's useful. And some Dijon. Okay. Super simple dressing. You know, Dijon mustard is used. Mustard is used as an emulsifier in dressings. That's why you see it so often. In addition, of course, to the somewhat pungent, spicy flavor of it, but it is what emulsifies. It holds the oil and the vinegar together. And then we'll just whisk it up. And do some olive oil. I use a different olive oil on my salads than the one I cook with. Different, slightly different flavors. I'm going to turn the broccoli on. See. Let's we'll dip up the soup. Turn it off. So I'm just going to puree about 1/3 of the amount that's in this pot. So, you know what, I want to show it to you. All right, so here's what I'll do. Do it this way. So here's what it looks like before it's whirred around. So that's the, there it is, chunky and this beautiful golden red color. It looks like a maple tree. And then I'm gonna blend that much so that the texture of the squash, just makes a nice. It's like sort of like what would happen with a potato. But it's not quite as starchy as
So one question that came up, Catherine, was that's your second favorite tool in addition to the microphone?
Yeah, it is. Yes, the stick leather. Yeah. Yeah, because it's so easy. I don't have to haul out the big Vitamix and get it all dirty. You just gotta wash this part. Plus, it's just easy. It's just last minute. It's really easy. Really makes life easy to work with. Okay, get that out of the way. And then put this back in. So you see the puree. See how pretty a color it is? Oh, it's so pretty. I mean, food really should be beautiful, It really should. If it isn't beautiful, you're not going to want to eat it. And then we'll just put together a salad and we're pretty much got it together here. Come on, broccoli, your thing. All right, so the salad here is just, at this point, you're just composing on the salad. So here's my greens. This is from Potomac Organic Farms, and there's Mizuna, and there's a little baby spinach, and there's all kinds of stuff in there. Some red leaf stuff. There's some radicchio that I added the radicchio because it's a bitter taste, and I wanted some bitter. There's probably some mustard greens in here that are young, so they're not tough. Right. So there's that. And then green onion is here. So we're gonna mix that in. Look at that. It's like magic. Okay, and then there'll be the pears. And there's toasted walnuts, chopped walnuts, which are right here. Put some there. And then here's the little pears. And I just kind of go, because I like it to be pretty. And I did deliberately use a stark crimson red-skinned pear for the color, but you could use any pear. Not necessarily an Asian pear, that's a different fruit, but different kind of fruit. But a gold pear, a green pear, all good. All right. Okay. And then we do a little bit more walnut. And the chev. So look at the flavors you're combining just in the salad. So you've got the sweetness of the pear, and the dressing, because of the maple syrup, is both sour and sweet. And then you've got the toasted walnuts, which are a little bit bitter and astringent, but also they're high in oils, so they're still very beneficial for a Vata. And then you've got this goat cheese that is obviously it's an option, but you know, it's creamy and it's a tiny bit pungent. And dairy products, and usually you're talking about cow dairy products, are considered sweet overall, because sweet doesn't just mean sugar, it literally means taste. So this goat cheese is a little more pungent than regular cow's milk cheese. But you know, whatever cheese you wanted to use, you want to use something that is a fresh cheese rather than an aged cheese. Is especially beneficial to use. Okay, and then the dressing. Here in spoon. Dressing needs to be re-emulsified. There we go. So it's kind of this brown because of the balsamic. Ah, so pretty. And I was going a little over the top here, but I had also included pomegranate arrows. So here's a pomegranate. Arrows are the seeds. And you take off the cap. So you cut through the skin so you can lift off cap, like so. And then it opens you up to this world of miracles inside. You can tell I love her. I get excited about all these amazing things, all these gifts we have from Mother Nature. And of course, pomegranate is sweet and sour. Yeah. And it's a favorite food for Vata. Unfortunately, they're coming back into season, of course. It is true that it really is the foods that are in season at the time. Okay, so I'm going to start to put stuff on the table. There's the salad. Oh my gosh. There's the soup. I'm hoping my broccoli is cooking. Look at that. Yeah. Here's our soup. Look. Now you could garnish this with a little cilantro on the top if you like cilantro, just or parsley to give it a little contrasting color. So I'm going to have to show you all this when I get it set down. And the red lentils here. I need a bigger counter. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. There's something about this, I make lots of red lentil dolls over the course of the year, but there's this one with the tomato and the spinach just feels exactly right for right now, for this transitional season that we're in. Oh, and the coconut smells fabulous. I don't know if I can show this to you without spilling it. See it? Whoops. I spilled it. I'm going to put a little cilantro in this because You know, some people are not fond of cilantro, that's fine. But it is a natural flavor enhancer for everything coconut. You know, every savory coconut food loves cilantro. So we'll add a little for flavor and color. There we go. Okay, I'm going to show you the whole table when I get it set. And then we have the broccolini coming. So here's the steamy broccolini. Bright green. So nice. And here's its cashew, soy, garlic, ginger dressing. You could also zest a little lemon zest on it, which would be great. I'll take a photo of all of this too, and I'll send it. I'll send it to Carla, so that if you can't quite see things here right now at the table, you'll have another chance to see it all.
Yum.
Yeah, I know. Yum. Smells fabulous. Okay, little lemon zest. And the crisp. The crisp. Okay, I'm bringing the camera over. I'll try not to make you dizzy.
And your energy bars.
Oh, the energy bars. Yeah. Wait. I almost forgot. I mean, I did forget. There. Yeah, and they're nice and solid now. So here they are. So you can actually, the nice thing about having them either in paper or plastic, you just lift it right out of the pan. See? I had noted that if these get warm, they'll get soft, and they will. Because the coconut oil starts to melt above like 70 some degrees. Having said that, I did leave one out for a few hours yesterday because I was just curious what would happen. And I just wanted to confirm that. And what did happen was that it didn't melt, it just got softer. So for example, if I wanted to take these on a hiking trip or something, and here I'm just going to cut a few, because they are really good energy bars in that sense. They fulfill their mission. I would just maybe cut them into like a small square and wrap it individually in the wrap, so that I could just like instead in a whole big mass like that, or in a little tiny piece that's going to melt even faster. And if it's individually wrapped, you could still eat it. I mean, it tasted great. It still tasted good. It was just a little softer. So thank you for reminding me. I would have done a lot, and but later, oh, I forgot the energy bar. Here, I'll put them on a little plate. So see, they're a solid little square, and they're really delicious. You don't have to trust me. You could make them yourself. There we are. Okay. Got them. So let's see if I can get you a better look. We're going over to the table. Get a little tour of my house here. Okay. So I'm gonna see what we can do. So we've got the crisp over there at the end. The squash soup is in that bowl. There's the beautiful salad. There's the red lentils. Yeah, there's the broccolini in the crisp, and you saw there's the energy bars. All right, and as I said, I'm gonna photo them. I'll photo the table just as it is right now, and we'll send it to you.
Cathryn, what a feast. Woo!
Yes, it was a beautiful feast. You want to come over for dinner?
Seriously, maybe in touch.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions for Cathryn?
No?
Yes,
I mean, yes, a question?
I have a question. Yeah.
Okay.
On one of the recipes, you said you could use any kind of oil. And most of the recipes you specify coconut oil. Can you substitute in all the recipes for the coconut?
I would prefer it for the dal, either coconut oil or ghee. Just in terms of, just in terms of flavor more than anything. But you could also use like a sunflower oil. Olive oil would kind of be the wrong flavor for the dal. For the squash soup, you could use any oil you want.
Okay, thank you.
Olive oil would be good in that one. For the salad dressing, I would use an olive oil, unless you, for some reason, you don't eat olive oil, then just use something light. And for the broccolini, we used the sunflower oil, which is my go-to alternative to olive oil or coconut oil. I use sunflower oil. And I added a little untoasted sesame oil there because I like the flavor of it. So.
Thank you.
The coconut oil in the energy bars, it is important because it solidifies. So you couldn't use another oil there; it would never solidify. And in the fruit crisp, I would use butter if you don't want to use coconut oil, because again, I think it's important that it has that texture that as it cools, it gets solid.
Mhm.
We're so grateful, Cathryn, to be able to spend this afternoon with you. I'm just sitting here drooling.
Well, I hope since we aren't actually in the same room together, I hope that you are inspired to try one of these things or two. You know? Cook it, please.
Absolutely. Plan to. On the agenda.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much for giving us your time.
Thank
All of you. It wouldn't be the same without you. So I'm so grateful that you chose to join us this afternoon. Thank you. And I hope it is useful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. We're so glad to be able to welcome you today and hope you'll be back again soon for another cooking class or some of the other programs that we offer at Smith Center.
Alrighty. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.